Prehistoric Emergence, the story where a bunch of holes open up all around the world, and prehistoric life, well, emerges from within. Whether it be the Megalodon taking over the oceans, the T-Rex terrorizing the land, or the Pterosaurs that are haunting the skies, they are all back and causing a huge shift in life as we know it. To try and combat this threat, the Global Prehistoric Affairs Commission, or GPAC for short, has been formed, but no efforts have managed to halt this emergence. These creatures have been affecting all of our ecosystems in catastrophic ways, and no one knows how or why these random holes have opened up. It's possible that this is all humanity's punishment for their treatment of the planet, and an ancient god has brought this prehistoric life back from the dead with the goal of wiping us off the earth. Or it could all just work like Ice Age, and they've been living underneath us all this time. But I'm gonna go with the former here and say this is all the work of a higher power. All of this to say that there has been 2 new entries since the last video covering this series, and the highly anticipated Vessel of Terror has just premiered, and I knew I was going to have to stop whatever it was I was doing to check it out. Where we had last left off, citizens had reported sightings of an odd-looking T-Rex that wasn't really attacking anyone, just sitting and staring, observing us if you will, and the people had named it the Daba. GPAC had sent out a team and claimed to have neutralized the threat, but in actuality they had captured and caged it up for further studies. However, it begins to notice the cameras keeping an eye on it, and manages to speak the word human while glitching out the footage. The T-Rex being named the Daba hints at more than you may be expecting. You see, the name Daba is also referred to as the Beast of the Earth, and it is associated with the Day of Judgment. If there is any of these prehistoric creatures we need to keep a close eye on, it's going to be that one. As always, be sure to check out the original series before jumping on over here for us to try and fight the emergence as a team. So without further ado, let's equip ourselves with our enchanted armor and see what new horrors are in store for us in Prehistoric Emergence.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. I'll also have linked in the description below our socials and the 4-player gaming channel where we dive into the terrifying world of horror video games. But anyways, now you can pass through.
Dire Encounter, Tape 6. We are introduced to the character Jason, who is on his way to his friend Brad's when his mother calls him during his drive. She seems to be in distress and says that his brother Ben hasn't been answering the phone, and it's been a couple hours. His last known location was Glen Park, and Jason is being asked to check up on him as anything could have gone wrong, especially in this universe. Jason seems a bit frustrated considering this is putting a halt on his plans, but he tells his mom he's going to try calling, and if he doesn't get an answer, he will begrudgingly head to the park to check things out.
Alright. I'll try calling him first.
Sure enough, Ben doesn't answer when Jason calls, and we cut ahead to us now at the park hunting him down. We yell out his name, but that doesn't seem to be working. Ben is nowhere to be found. We continue making our way through the park before we can end up hearing a familiar ringtone that signals nothing good.
Ben?
Turns out this is Ben's ringtone, and we begin to sprint over to the sound. The ringtone goes off again as we head closer to the source. Unfortunately, what we end up stumbling upon tells us everything we need to know.
Jesus, fuck!
Jason is rightfully distraught at the sight he has seen, as he cries out for Ben, but a loud howl interrupts and we are now trying to get away as fast as possible, but we end up finding the source of the howl. We try to run the other direction, but it isn't enough to outrun the wolf. Jason isn't immediately killed, and he tries to crawl his way to safety, until he looks up and is reminded that a wolf isn't going to hunt by itself. Considering the name of the episode, I'm going to take a wild guess and say we are dealing with the dire wolf. And while Ben was probably relaxing at the local park, he was confronted by a whole pack, and there was just no way he was going to make it out in one piece. It feels good to be back in the world of Prehistoric Emergence, especially since we have entered into new territory where the production value has skyrocketed. Getting fully found footage scenes with the animated creatures is truly a delight to see. Honestly, the effects here look incredible, and it leaves me all the more excited and terrified to see what's to come. I also like how this tape acted as sort of a side story within the universe. A lot of the series has been introducing us to the creatures, giving us some facts, and then we carry on. But recently we have been getting the ground level look at individuals being terrorized by the animals, and it has been adding a lot to the scares. The Friendly Giant, Tape 7. We open up and it sounds like we are watching a YouTube video being filmed for the channel Dino Chasers. Our narrator recaps the previous events, informing us of the holes opening up and the life that has come from inside. She has heard rumors of a behemoth roaming around Argentina, but no one has been able to capture the creature on camera, to which Dino Chasers is making it her main mission to be the first, attempting to make history. We cut to found footage and are following Dino Chasers. She gives us some info on her next planned video.
In my next video, I plan to explore the rumors taking place in the ocean.
This ballsy lady is planning on diving into the ocean for her next adventure. You're just asking for it at this point. Unfortunately, she hasn't had much luck finding the behemoth, just a lot of wandering through the forest. But she has come across what she believes is a lead, an awful smell coming from behind the trees up ahead. As we get closer, the smell just gets worse and worse, almost making her vomit. But she continues to power through. We then get to see what the source of the smell was. Now that is one big pile of shit. Even though the sight was nasty, it gives her hope that she is close to finding her creature. She believes that she is chasing an herbivore given the broken pieces of leaves and grass surrounding the area, and foolishly thinks that means she is safe from harm. And sure enough, our hunt is met with success. That's a behemoth alright, or more like an Argentinosaurus. She can't help herself but to get a little closer. You gotta get the money shot after all. We see as this giant is just slowly walking, minding its own business. But this distance isn't good enough. We need to get closer. Dino Chasers is almost in a trance looking at the creature, but then it notices us, and it isn't too happy that we have intruded on its space. After we get dropped, we get to listen in on the horrifying sounds of what I can only imagine is us getting stomped to death. One day, people will learn that just because it likely won't eat you, doesn't mean it isn't going to kill you. This tape was again more of its own self-contained story, following a new character while they find themselves in yet another frightening encounter. It was really a horrific scene to watch us get lifted up high in the air before getting trampled. I like how this tape both captured the sense of wonder of seeing such a larger-than-life creature, but also reminded us that they are still capable of messing you up, and won't just sit around for humans to pet it. But this all brings us to the longest and most ambitious entry to the series to date. Vessel of Terror, Tape 8. Our tape opens up and we are introduced to Marcus. No, not that Marcus. Wait, actually, yes it is that Marcus. And he is showing off his latest calamari dish made from the Pterosaurs. Unfortunately, Thanks, ma'am. Unfortunately, I'm a bit of a picky eater, so raw squid is not something I'd be ordering for dinner. But he reassures us that they have been deeply frozen, so there's no need to worry about any bacteria. We also learn that it isn't a very cheap option. Each squid is around a whopping $60. However, we do learn that most other prehistoric dishes come out to be way more expensive. Marcus is however interrupted by his front door being opened, which is announced by his Alexa. He believes it's just his partner Jess returning home, and asks her to check on their son Leo, but he isn't met with any response. He gets up to investigate and can see the front door has been left open. As we go to shut it, we can hear rummaging around upstairs, followed by quite the frightening scene.
Leo, are you alright? What the?
We run upstairs to check on Jess. I'm not too sure it's her anymore, unfortunately. We see down on the floor a trail of blood, followed by what I can only describe as my worst nightmare. That was quite the opening. Looks like the Daba isn't the only dinosaur capable of human speech. With the Daba, it seemed like it was just purely able to speak English, but this creature seems to be capable of mimicking the speech it hears. I have a bad feeling Jess is no longer with us, considering the dinosaur was able to replicate her voice to open up the front door. It's really frightening to see this level of intelligence displayed here from the dino. It knew exactly how to get inside the home. Turns out a high-tech security system isn't going to be enough to keep you safe. We cut to our next segment, which has taken us into short film territory, and we are introduced to Private Gray, who is being briefed on the fact that there has been multiple disappearances in the Shadow Valley neighborhood, which is exactly where we are headed. Private Gray asks why the local police aren't handling a missing persons report. but it's revealed that they were handling it until they found the remains of a body, and the dental records didn't match any species in GPAC's records. We then learn that Senator Brian Hill's granddaughter lives in Shadow Valley, so he and the rest of the neighborhood are in a bit of a panic, hence GPAC being sent in to take care of business. The senator's family have already been evacuated, and Private Gray is ordered to meet up with the field tech Patch, who's residing in the evacuated house and setting up surveillance around the surrounding woods. The two are on a mission to hunt down this mysterious dinosaur and eliminate it. Sounds easy enough. We see as Gray arrives at the house, and Patch is already outside ready to meet him. The two head inside the house, and Gray looks over at Patch's laptop to review the victim's autopsy report. Patch already seems to be a lot more talkative, while Gray is more reserved. The perfect duo already. Patch asks how many operations Gray has been on. Considering Gray is a private, Patch is concerned that he may not be equipped for this mission. But Gray reassures him that he is likely much more qualified to handle prehistoric threats than most, and reveals that while most have just a basic understanding of the creatures, if that even, he puts in the extra research in his spare time. The dinosaur they are hunting, however, isn't anything like the others, as it was able to break into people's locked homes, something they haven't heard of before, making this mission especially dangerous. Gray finishes up what he needs on the laptop, and the two gear up and prepare to head out. I gotta say, I've been watching this tape with a big ol' smile on my face. Just seeing this jump in production and quality is so cool to see. What started out as essentially still images of the creatures and your usual analog horror text to tell the story, but now we are watching a straight up short film in the universe, and I just couldn't be happier. Our next scene takes us out into the woods, as we watch our two characters traversing their way through. Looking through Patch's camera, he tries to start a conversation with Gray, asking if his other ops just involved planting gear and walking around. But Gray is more focused on the mission at hand. Patch inevitably is able to get Gray to open up, and he begins to tell a story from one of his previous assignments. He describes that he was on a Quetzalcoatlus extermination mission. Apparently, they found the creature perched up on top of a high school, which rightfully sent the school under lockdown. Before they could open fire, they noticed that it was tracking a student who had picked the wrong time to skip class. The dinosaur ended up flying its way towards the student, and the crew were ordered to hold their fire, but one of the men freaked out and fired at it, killing the dinosaur, and unfortunately, the student as well. This didn't do GPAC any favors in the legal sense, and Gray reveals that GPAC is more so concerned with the politics and funding of it all rather than protecting the people. We already know that this current mission got pushed into high priority mostly because the senator has family in the area. Needless to say, Gray has seen some shit. As the two continue walking, they end up stumbling upon a bloody handprint on the side of a tree. Someone had a bad day. Tensions have risen as the two are getting closer to the target, perhaps a bit closer than even they are aware. Gray contacts High Command and informs them that they couldn't find anything on their sweep. However, Patch has gone around and put out some more monitoring equipment throughout the area. Since the highest priority of command is keeping the senator happy, they are ordered to keep 24-hour surveillance until the target is located and dealt with. The two decide to split the work into 2-hour shifts. We cut to later in the night, and High Command calls in for an update, but the target has still not been found. This pisses off Command, but if the target isn't showing itself, then it isn't showing itself. They are told to double the surveillance, and even have one of them go on foot to try and hunt it down. Gray tries to argue against this, claiming they already have all of the area actively monitored, and would just be a waste of resources, assuring him that if the target is in the area, that they will find it. Command gives them 6 hours to find the creature. Again, this is all if the dinosaur is in the area. We cut ahead and can see that one of the cameras has picked up some motion. We flip over and can see a pack of direwolves that have been slaughtered. Gray decides he is going to head over to the area to investigate while Patch stays on the cameras. Patch tries to go with him, but Gray turns it down, informs Command of the lead, and he heads over to the site. We see through the camera Gray heading over to the area, but we can hear as Patch calls into Command to try and get them to authorize him to help out Gray. This turns into a bit of a back and forth between Patch and Command, and Patch is ultimately able to convince Command to allow him to assist. We watch as Patch heads through the woods and finds Gray, who is rightfully confused as to why he is there. Gray asks if he is armed, and Patch proves it by showing off some exemplary gun safety.
Are you armed? Yeah.
The two are now traversing the woods in the dead of night. I know it's the mission and all, but the last thing I want to see here is the target. The two end up finding themselves a baby Triceratops. What a little guy. And Command calls asking for an update. It seems Gray tries to keep quiet about the creature they have found, but Patch ends up letting it slip and tells them all about it. But Gray reassures that it's just a small herbivore and isn't going to be a threat. But, since this is all about the damn senator who is looking for results, Command sees any kill as proof that they are doing their jobs correctly. Gray tries to combat this, but Command is not having it. What an asshole. Gray is very hesitant to put down the creature, and I swear you better leave it alone. However, these two learn the hard way that if you find a baby dino, parent dino is certainly close by. Patch freaks out and runs in the other direction, leaving Gray to face it off alone. Good partner, I tell ya. Luckily, he comes to his senses and realizes he needs to head back and assist his ally. But Gray ends up finding him instead, unfortunately revealing he put down the Triceratops. This seems to affect Gray, and I don't blame him. Poor Dino was just trying to protect the little one. We find ourselves at the body of the Triceratops, and Command is very happy with the results. And it sounds like they just assume that the target is no longer in the area and that they can just report the Triceratops as the threat and head back for now. I'm sure you all feel the same way, but having to watch the baby Triceratops sad about the mother's passing is really hurting my heart and soul. If I didn't hate Command before, I definitely do now. Patch and Gray return to the house. Patch decides the two need a bit of a break and finds a bottle of alcohol for the two to partake. This next scene ends up being quite the nice character moment for the two protagonists. Patch mentions hearing about a conspiracy theory about the Daba being locked up at Area 51. Yeah, totally just a conspiracy. Patch begins to open up about his past a little bit, about how before the Prehistoric Emergence, he never felt he had a purpose, which changed once the opportunity to join GPAC opened up. However, now due to the last mission, it's all back up to question. He feels ashamed at the fact that at the sight of the Triceratops, he immediately panicked and ran off. He then asks what caused Gray to join GPAC. If we look back in the tape Tyrant Lizard King, there was a mention of a massacre where 19 T-Rexes attacked a city in Montana, resulting in 313 casualties, and it sounds like Gray was there when it happened. We cut to a flashback scene of Gray running for his life, and we are met with a scene straight out of one of my nightmares. He reveals that he lost someone close to him that day, and that was the reason he joined GPAC. He sets the bottle down, and the two call it a night. I'm really glad we got this moment. Whenever we have followed a character in this series, we usually don't follow them for very long before a dinosaur swoops in and takes them out. But here, we are actually getting some development, and I'm finding myself caring for Patch and Gray. I want to see them complete this mission and make it out alive. The next day, we are back in the vehicle, and Command is not very happy. As it turns out, after Gray took out the Triceratops, they declared the sector clear, which led to the senator moving his daughter, Miss Hills, back into the neighborhood. And then lo and behold, she has now not been heard from in over 24 hours. A neighbor had reported hearing a child screaming for help in the woods that Miss Hills also heard while on her morning walk. This led to her running into the woods to try and help. So now Patch and Gray are to go back into the forest to locate and return her unharmed. Command then tries to pin the blame on our two characters, since they were responsible for clearing out the area. But if I remember correctly, Mr. Dickhead Command, you were the ones who sent them off after the Triceratops was killed instead of letting them continue their search for the actual target. God, this makes me angry. It's not their fault. It's your fault. Ugh, assholes. The two park the car near the forest and gear up. Don't you think Patch should have something a little more than just a pistol considering the threats we are facing? I'd probably run off too if I had to fight a dinosaur with that thing. We once again find ourselves traversing the woods, but the two end up hearing a call for help deep within the woods, and I don't know if I should trust it based on how it sounded. As the two press on, Patch ends up discovering quite the sight, a ripped off ear, and we hear that same call for help yet again. Gray realizes that this isn't actually Miss Hill yelling for help. She likely is already dead. Patch again begins to panic, and Gray makes an attempt to calm him down. We now know that we aren't hunting down the creature, it is hunting us. The two stand their ground, and we end up getting this really cool segment where we are now in the eyes of the dinosaur itself, stalking our two leads. We periodically cut between Patch and Gray with their guns drawn, and the POV of the dino slowly making its way closer, until we can see that one is a lot closer than we thought. It begins to go into a sprint, but Gray is able to notice. Now it's showtime. As it turns out, there is more than one of these bastards out in the woods. As Gray fired at one, another swept away Patch. Man, I hope he's alive. We see through the eyes of the dino as it looks upon its shot-down comrade, but it hears Gray's radio off in the distance and begins to head in his direction. Turns out this was all a distraction, and Gray left his radio on the ground to lure it out, and he is able to gun it down. Give this man a medal for most aura ASAP. Gray reveals to Command that Patch is MIA and needs backup immediately. He is told to continue his search for Miss Hills and that backup is on the way. Unfortunately, Gray now walks through the woods alone, and in a tragic scene, he finds Patch's body and reports him as killed in action. He requests a recovery team, and these fuckers say it isn't a priority, and Gray does what we all wish he did a while ago and hangs up on him. However, we then see he still isn't alone. The tape credits begin to play as we hear High Command reading off a report of the whole ordeal. It's revealed that the target turned out to be a pack of Utahraptors, and we learn that thankfully Gray was able to make it out alive, but sustained critical injuries. He was literally able to take out the dino with just his knife. Where's that medal, damn it? It's then said that the recovery team was unable to locate Miss Hills, which has led the Senator to express disinterest in working with GPAC in the future. The fate Command really did not want to happen, but you know what? Deserved. Command is worried that they are now going to suffer a decline in funding and recruitment. Once the credits are over, we learn about the Emergency Powers Act, which would essentially act as a draft for GPAC. If they declare an emergency, all citizens of eligible age would be sent to serve under GPAC, and the only way out of it is to be considered an essential citizen. Or you can fork up $1 million to GPAC, all so that they can ensure protection for who they deem as quote-unquote vital citizens. The last thing we learn about before this episode ends is that Dr. Holloway, the guy that was surveilling the Daba, has discovered something he says to be very interesting about the creature, and Command wonders if it could be of any strategic use, to which the episode ends. Absolute cinema. This is arguably one of the best pieces of dinosaur horror I have seen on YouTube to date. I really love this, so huge props to the creator for managing to put together this incredible work. The time and effort really paid off. The camera work, the acting, writing, animation, everything was just super well done and made for a really engaging and thrilling episode in the series. It didn't give us many lore answers, but honestly I don't care. It still managed to build out the world and introduce us to some great characters. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Patch and Gray start to connect as their journey carried on, and it made it all the more heartbreaking when Patch was dragged away. I like how Gray starts off as someone who seems like they only care about getting the mission done, but as we learn, he actually has gone through a lot of troubled experiences, and even shows moments of depth when he tries to refuse to kill the baby Triceratops. It's interesting because early on in the episode, Patch makes the comment that he must have some sort of vendetta against the creatures, considering all the outside work he puts in to research how to take him out, but he doesn't want to kill any of them that aren't going to be a threat. I definitely hope that we get to see more of him in future installments. If he was able to solo 3 dinosaurs, one being with only a combat knife, he is someone you are going to want on your team at all times. But it certainly seems like whatever comes next is going to really focus on the Daba. Based on how High Command was talking at the end, it almost sounds like they are thinking of using the Daba as a way to combat the other creatures, which I can't imagine working in their favor at all. If the Daba is truly the one to bring about the Day of Judgment, then I doubt you want to try using it for personal gains. Something else to note from this episode was just how threatening and terrifying the portrayal of the Utahraptors were. The fact that they were able to mimic human speech really added to the horror of it all, especially in the very beginning where it's seen lurking in the bedroom, and later on where it mimics the voice of Miss Hills. Needless to say, this episode was truly fantastic, and I'm super impressed and proud to see how far the series has grown, and I really can't wait to see what these guys are able to cook up next for us. If you haven't already, you have to check out the series for yourself, as it's got all the good dinosaur horrors you could ask for and more. But that'll be about it for this video. As always, be sure to keep on leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord, where we keep our baby Triceratops safe. But if you'll excuse me, I need to have myself a very stern word with High Command.